2, 1.
Hello, welcome to 50/50 Day. I'm Julie Hermelin, one of the producers for 50/50 Day, holding the fort down here in Los Angeles. And I'm so happy to welcome Stéphanie and Jing from Pricewaterhouse Coopers, Stéphanie Leblanc and Jing Teow. Pricewaterhouse is the second largest professional services firm in the world and the 5th largest privately held company in the United States. Closing the wage gap and engaging more Canadian women in the workforce could lead to significant GDP growth, among other economic benefits. And Stéphanie and Jing have done an incredible report, the Women's Index, and I'm excited to have them on here to talk about this. There's still room for improvement, but compared to other countries, Canada is doing incredibly well. So Stéphanie, can you tell me what is the Women's Index?
Yes, hi Julie. First, thank you very much for having us. It's nice to put a face and very exciting to be here at the 50/50 Day. The index is really a global measure of female economic empowerment and equality in the workplace. So we want to know where we can improve, and if there are gaps, where we can improve and where we have been doing very well. So the index is combining 5 key indicators of female economic empowerment, and it gets them into one index and joining 33 OECD countries together. And we thought it was really important to build this index, and the reason is we cannot actually afford not to use everybody's full potential for several reasons. And first, productivity is key, and it will bring more. Actually, the economy itself will benefit from having everybody's full potential to work. And our study shows that it could improve and boost GDP up to 2 trillion globally if we close some of the gaps.
So I just want to hit that point again, because I think that really, to me, when you first sent me that study, the fact that having gender equity in the workforce and closing that pay gap would really boost the GDP by $2 trillion. Now, is that globally, or that's just in Canada, or that's all of the OECD countries? And talk for a minute about who are the OECD countries?
So it's really the global picture of it, and we will break it down into the UK, into the Canada, into all those 33 OECD countries, and everybody has to put shoulder to work to make sure that we accomplish and close the gap. You know, Julie, it's been demonstrated by several independent studies that diversity is improving financial health of companies. And of course, we are in finance, so it's very important for us, and it will enhance shareholder value. So what we think is that the sum of the differences of everybody being diversity will create value add, bring innovation, bring creativity, and have an impact on the economy. So what are some of the conclusions then so what are the main conclusions of the index?
So I'll take this one, and thanks for having me here today, Judy. It's really an honor to be, alongside the lineup of impressive speakers that you've got here today. I guess in terms of the main conclusions, globally, women are entering the workforce in ever greater numbers. the performance on the index across the OECD, which is basically a club of mostly high-income countries. So performance has improved over the long term. Now, progress did stall a little bit during the global financial crisis, but since then, progress has picked up again. The top performers on the index are the Nordic countries, so Sweden, Norway, and Iceland, and perhaps there is no surprise there. But for me, the key challenge for most countries remains the gender pay gap. It is still a persistent problem. In the UK, for example, women are paid £83 for every £100 that are paid to men, which is quite similar to the OECD average. And although the pay gap is gradually closing, progress is still incredibly slow. So if you have seen our Women in Work report, it shows that it will take the OECD almost a century to close the gap if current trends continue.
A century to close this current gap.
That's right, and that feels too long for me, and it's not even within my lifetime. So it goes to show
how long did it take to get to where we are here, right? To this point, if we're talking about now another century, how far back is this report looking historically?
So this report it goes as far back as 2000. So it's a fairly recent report, and the reason for this is that it's actually quite difficult to get a set of globally consistent data across all the indicators that we wanted to look at. So 2000, really was the only practical year where we could start this analysis. And since then, we have seen the pay gap close on average across these countries by a few percentage points. But to me, that still isn't really moving quickly enough. And part of that is down to structural reasons and the way that different economies work and different preferences for the way women and men work that account for the pay gap.
So what are the key issues to address? How can we really close this and speed up this timeline? Because I don't know, 100 years is really, I'm going to be way too old at that time, and even my cryogenically frozen human self. I can't wait. I can't wait.
So really, in order to improve key issues, and in Canada, I just want to say we are under the OECD 33 countries. So I'm promoting even more that what we have to do is to sponsor and mentor women. So we have been talking a lot about mentoring, and that's very good, but it's not enough. Sponsoring a woman is attracting her to the top of the companies, and having more people, more women in the leadership on boards of companies will increase the salaries of women and reduce the gender pay gap. We know in PwC actually we have a Canadian goal and objective that is really, really distinctive, and our leadership decided that they will admit as many men and women in the partnership by 2020. So right now.
So is that something? Is that something, Stephanie? Is that something that they're actually? Is that something that is actually in the I'm saying the bylaws, not the bylaws per se, but is that something actually institutionally the PwC has put in, saying they're going to have these equal numbers, or is that something that's just kind of a soft understanding?
No,
this is structurally PwC has done.
I'm sorry, the line is cutting. So it's really an objective that has been promoted and disclosed. So our leadership will accomplish that by 2020. And it means a lot. It means a lot because it's an upward spiral. So when you attract women in the leadership, then there will be more women that will become role models, and you will be able to have a better funnel of those women wanted to go and in the upscales of the company, and you'll have more diversity. So it's really Yeah.
So just how can we talk from, so how can we kind of bring that then into the boardroom? How can we go from the boardroom? And this is as a last note, because we're wrapping up, and I'm so thrilled to have you guys. So the last note about bringing more women into the boardroom.
Maybe Jing, do you want to take this one? I think actually the government has to first show an example, and then you can set targets and disclose the targets. So it's really important to disclose targets. Do you want quotas? That's another kind of discussion, of course.
Okay, so mentorship, setting targeted goals, being transparent about them. These are fantastic. These are fantastic conclusions. The index that PwC put together has some powerful information about how closing the pay gap is really going to improve the GDP for everyone worldwide. So I want to thank you, Stephanie. Thank you, Jing, for coming on. It was really wonderful to have you as part of 50/50 Day.
Thank you very much, Julie.